Imagine gripping a steering wheel the size of a dinner plate, hearing a 12-cylinder diesel engine thunder to life beneath a hood stretching 6 feet in front of you. No power steering, no GPS, no electronic babysitting. Just raw iron, mechanical muscle, and a driver who actually knew every bolt in his rig. These weren't just trucks, they were legends on 18 wheels. And truckers who drove them will tell you nothing built today even comes close. Number 10. The 1941 White Superpower, Model WA22. Background and history. The White Motor Company had been building trucks since 1900. But by 1941, they had refined their craft into something truly special. With the WA22 Superpower series, White was based in Cleveland, Ohio, and had earned a reputation for building some of the most durable long-haul trucks in North America. The WA22 was a forward-control cabover that became a workhorse for freight haulers across the United States during the early years of World War II. Engine and performance. The WA22 was powered by the Cummins HB600 diesel engine, an inline 6-cylinder unit displacing 672 cubic inches and producing approximately 150 horsepower. While that number sounds modest by modern standards, in 1941 this was considered a powerhouse. The engine was paired with a fuller 10-speed crash gearbox. Double clutching was not optional. It was a skill every driver had to master just to move the truck. Top speed was around 50 miles per hour on a flat highway, and fuel economy averaged between 4 and 6 miles per gallon depending on load. Why truckers loved it? The WA22 had a reputation for being nearly indestructible. Drivers who ran it said the engine would run for over 500,000 miles with proper maintenance, something almost unheard of at the time. The cab was Spartan by any measure. No air conditioning, minimal insulation, and a seat that offered about as much comfort as a park bench. But truckers loved it because everything was mechanical and fixable on the side of the road with basic hand tools. There was no wiring harness to short out, no computer to malfunction. If something broke, you fixed it. Why it no longer exists? White Motor Company continued building trucks through several decades, but the original WA22 platform was phased out as cabover designs evolved post-war. White was eventually acquired by Volvo in 1981, and by the mid-1980s the White name was being phased off American highways entirely. Very few WA22 units survive today, and those that do are museum pieces. Number 9. The 1948 Kenworth 523. Bullnose. Background and history. Kenworth Truck Company, founded in Seattle, Washington in 1923, built their 523 model in the late 1940s as a conventional long hood design. The 523 earned its nickname Bullnose from its distinctive rounded hood that jutted forward from the cab. This was an era when Kenworth was building trucks almost entirely by hand. Early post-war models were essentially custom-ordered rigs, with buyers specifying their engine, transmission, axle ratio, and even cab details. Production numbers were small because every truck was unique. Engine and performance. Most 523 models were fitted with either the Cummins NH180 or the Hall-Scott 590 gasoline engine. The Hall-Scott 590 was a massive inline 6-cylinder gasoline engine displacing 590 cubic inches and producing around 200 horsepower. Impressive power for the post-war era. Diesel variants came equipped with early Cummins units producing between 150 and 180 horsepower. The 523 rode on a heavy-duty 4-spring suspension and could hold gross vehicle weights of up to 70,000 pounds on the roads of the era. Why truckers loved it? The Kenworth 523 was known for its exceptional build quality. The frame rails were aircraft-grade aluminum in some configurations, a technology Kenworth pioneered by adapting World War II aviation materials. Drivers praised the visibility from the high-set cab and the relative ease of maintenance because the long hood gave mechanics easy access to every part of the engine. The 523 also had a commanding road presence that drivers said made other vehicles give way simply out of respect. Why it no longer exists? The 523 model line gave way to the more modern W900 series in the 1960s. Cabover designs were also gaining regulatory favor because they allowed longer trailers within overall length limits. The era of the hand-built conventional semi was over, replaced by more standardized production methods. Today, a restored Kenworth 523 is a trophy-class show truck, Number 8. The 1950 Mack LJ Long Job. Background and history. Mack Trucks, headquartered in Allentown, Pennsylvania, introduced the LJ series in the late 1940s, and it remained in production into the early 1950s. The LJ stood for Long Job, a name that reflected its intended purpose as a heavy long-haul tractor. Mack had a long tradition of building their own engines, transmissions, and rear axles, making their trucks unusually self-contained compared to competitors who sourced major components from outside suppliers. The LJ was a quintessential post-war American semi, all chrome, steel, and brute force. Engine and performance. The LJ was powered by Mack's own END673 diesel engine, a 673 cubic inch inline six-cylinder producing around 165 horsepower. What set this engine apart was its unusual square bore and stroke design, which Mack engineers said gave more balanced combustion. The transmission was a Mack Duplex Max-A-Torque, a proprietary unit with 10 forward speeds that was renowned for its durability. Drivers said the Mack Duplex transmission was one of the best gearboxes ever put behind a diesel engine. Why truckers loved it? Mack built the LJ as if it would need to work forever. The frame was thick steel, the axles were massive, and the engine was famously over-engineered. The bulldog hood ornament on every Mack was earned. Drivers called these trucks bulldogs because they were stubborn, powerful, and would keep working when lesser trucks quit. The LJ also had a distinctive exhaust bark from its Mack engine that truckers of the era recognized from a mile away. Why it no longer exists? Mack phased out the LJ series by the mid-1950s as the B series took over. The B series was itself a legend, but the LJ represented the last of the truly post-war conventional Mack designs. Mack eventually became part of the Renault Trucks Group in 1990, and while the brand survives today, trucks like the LJ are part of a completely different era. Number 7. The 1953 Peterbilt 350. Background and history. Peterbilt Motors Company, founded in 1939 in Oakland, California by T.A. Peterman, introduced the Model 350 in 1953. This was a cab-over engine design, meaning the cab sat directly over the engine rather than behind it, that allowed for maximum trailer length under existing federal regulations. The 350 was built in Newark, California, and was particularly popular with West Coast long-haul operators running routes between California, Oregon, and Washington. Its flat-face cab and wraparound windshield were considered modern and aerodynamic for their day. Engine and performance. The Peterbilt 350 was most commonly fitted with the Cummins NHB 600 diesel, a 743 cubic inch inline six-cylinder producing around 200 horsepower. By the mid-1950s, optional power plants included the Detroit Diesel 671, a 426 cubic inch two-stroke engine that produced a unique sound and acceptable power for the era. The 350 was mated to a fuller 10-speed transmission and could legally haul up to 73,000 pounds GVW on California highways of the period. Why truckers loved it? The 350 was known for its excellent forward visibility from the cab-over position and its relatively comfortable cab for the era. West Coast drivers particularly prized cab-overs because California and other western states had strict overall length limits, and the COE design let them run the longest legal trailers. The 350 also had a stronger frame and heavier construction than many competitors. Peterbilt never compromised on materials. Why it no longer exists? Federal deregulation in 1980 and the Surface Transportation Assistance Act of 1982 increased allowable truck lengths nationally, which made cab-overs less necessary for maximizing payload. Conventional long-hood trucks became dominant again. Peterbilt's last cab-over was the Model 362, discontinued in 2000. The 350 itself was replaced by the 352 in 1954, but its spirit lived on in Peterbilt's COE lineup for decades. Number 6. The 1956 International Harvester R190. Background and history. International Harvester Company, a Chicago-based agricultural and industrial equipment giant, produced the R-Series trucks from 1953 through 1956. The R190 was the heavy tractor variant at the top of the R-Series range, designed specifically for long-haul semi-truck operation. International Harvester was one of the largest truck manufacturers in the United States at the time, with dealers and service points across the entire country, a major selling point for operators running coast-to-coast routes. Engine and performance. The R190 was powered by International Harvester's own RD450 diesel engine, a 450 cubic inch inline six-cylinder producing 145 horsepower. Some operators opted for the Continental six-cylinder gasoline engine as an alternative. The RD450 was known for smooth running and good low-end torque, which made it an able hill climber when hauling heavy loads. The R190 came standard with a 5-speed main transmission and could be ordered with an optional 2-speed auxiliary for a 10-speed combination. Why truckers loved it? International Harvester's service network was unmatched. A trucker could break down nearly anywhere in America in the 1950s and find an IH dealer within a reasonable distance who stocked parts for the R190. The truck itself was also well liked for its relatively easy steering. By 1956, some models were being fitted with early power steering options, and for its cab ergonomics, which were considered among the best of any American truck at the time. Why? It no longer exists. International Harvester exited the truck business in 1986 when it sold its truck division to form Navistar International, which today produces trucks under the International brand. The R-Series was replaced by the S-Line trucks in 1956, and each subsequent generation moved further from the classic 1950s proportions. The R190 remains one of the most collectible IH trucks of the post-war era. Number 5. The 1960 Autocar DC 9964 DC Series. Background and history. Autocar Company, founded in 1897 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, was one of the oldest truck manufacturers in American history. By 1960, they had refined the DC diesel conventional series into a specialized heavy-haul machine that had no real equal for sheer pulling power. Autocar was known for building trucks for the most demanding industrial and mining applications, and their highway tractors reflected that same philosophy of absolute ruggedness. The DC 9964 designation reflected the model's gross vehicle weight rating and configuration. Engine and performance. The DC 9964 was typically equipped with either the Cummins NHH220, a 743 cubic inch inline six-cylinder, producing 220 horsepower, or the Cummins NHH250, producing 250 horsepower. These were among the most powerful diesel engines available in a commercial truck in 1960. The Autocar DC was also one of the first highway tractors offered with a tilt cab option, which dramatically improved engine access for maintenance. The truck could handle GVW configurations exceeding 76,800 pounds. Why truckers loved it? The Autocar DC was built like a piece of mining equipment, because in many cases it was. The frame thickness and axle ratings exceeded what most competitors offered. Drivers who ran these trucks said they were impervious to road shock and vibration in a way that other trucks weren't. Long-haul drivers also appreciated the relatively roomy cab, which offered a sleeper berth option that was considered spacious by early 1960s standards. Why it no longer exists? Autocar went through several ownership changes during the 1970s and 1980s. White Motor Company acquired Autocar in 1953, and when White went bankrupt in 1980, Autocar's assets were sold to various parties. The brand was eventually acquired by Volvo and later became a specialty truck builder focused on vocational trucks, garbage trucks, and construction vehicles rather than highway tractors. The classic DC highway tractor era ended by the early 1970s. Number 4. The 1965 Freightliner WFT7242T cab over. Background and history. Freightliner Corporation, founded in Portland, Oregon in 1942 by Leland James of Consolidated Freightways, built their mid-1960s cab-over trucks to a standard that set them apart from every other manufacturer. The WFT7242T was part of Freightliner's aluminum construction cab-over lineup that dominated Western long-haul operations throughout the 1960s. Freightliner was among the first manufacturers to extensively use aluminum in truck construction. The cab, fuel tanks, and many structural components were aluminum, which significantly reduced tare weight and increased payload capacity. Engine and performance. The WFT7242T was powered by the Detroit Diesel 6V71, a 426 cubic inch V6 two-stroke diesel producing around 238 horsepower. The 6V71 was a beloved engine with a distinctive high-pitched howl that drivers recognized instantly. Freightliner also offered the Cummins NHC 250 as an option. The transmission was typically a Fuller RT910 10-speed. Freightliner's aluminum construction meant these trucks were often 2,000 to 3,000 pounds lighter than steel competitors, translating directly into more legal payload. Why truckers loved it? Freightliner in the mid-1960s was building the most technologically advanced highway trucks in America. The aluminum cab was corrosion-resistant in coastal and salt road environments. The lighter curb weight meant operators could haul more freight legally. The 6V71 Detroit engine was known for being responsive and relatively easy to work on. Drivers of this era often called Freightliners the Cadillac of cabovers because of their build quality and ride characteristics. Why it no longer exists? Freightliner was sold to Daimler-Benz in 1981, and the company's truck lineup gradually evolved away from cabovers toward conventional designs. The last Freightliner cabover, the FLA/FLB series, was discontinued in 1996. Today, Freightliner, part of Daimler Truck North America, builds conventionals almost exclusively, though the brand remains one of the top sellers in the American market. Number 3. The 1969 Kenworth W925 Aerodyne Cabe. Background and history. The Kenworth W925 was produced from the mid-1960s through the early 1970s and represented a high water mark for American cabover engineering. The W925's Aerodyne cab, a term Kenworth coined for its raised roof sleeper configuration, gave drivers something they had never experienced before in a truck: a stand-up sleeper berth. The Aerodyne raised the roofline dramatically, creating a living space in the sleeper that drivers could actually stand up in. This was revolutionary in 1969, and other manufacturers scrambled to copy it. Engine and performance. The W925 was available with several engine options. The most popular was the Cummins NTC 335, an 855 cubic inch inline six-cylinder producing 335 horsepower, which was one of the most powerful engines available in a highway tractor in 1969. The optional Detroit Diesel 8V71 produced around 318 horsepower and was preferred by drivers who liked the turbine-like sound of the Detroit two-stroke. Transmission options included the Fuller RT910 and RT915 10 and 15-speed units respectively. The W925 was geared for fuel efficiency on western interstate routes. Why truckers loved it? The W925 Aerodyne was simply the most comfortable long-haul truck ever built up to that point. Drivers who spent 10 days crossing the country could actually sleep in a real bed, stand up when they woke, and feel like they had a habitable space rather than a coffin bunk. Kenworth's construction quality was also legendary. These trucks were hand-assembled in Kenworth's Seattle plant with a care that production line trucks couldn't match. Why it no longer exists? Kenworth phased out the W925 in the early 1970s, replacing it with the updated K100 cabover that carried the Aerodyne concept forward. When federal length law changes in 1982 reduced the advantage of COE designs, Kenworth's cabovers gradually lost market share. Kenworth discontinued all cabover production in the early 2000s. Today, the W900 conventional is Kenworth's flagship, and the W925 exists only in collections and truck shows. Number 2. The 1973 Mack R model, R600. Background and history. The Mack R model is perhaps the most recognizable conventional semi-truck in American history. Introduced in 1966 and produced with minimal changes all the way through 1987, the R model represented Mack at their absolute best. The R600 designation referred to the heavy highway tractor variant, the workhorse of transcontinental freight. By 1973, the R600 was in its prime. Emissions regulations hadn't yet strangled diesel engine output, the highways were open, and this truck was pulling heavy loads across America with authority. Engine and performance. The 1973 R600 was powered by Mack's own ENDT 673 turbocharged diesel, a 673 cubic inch inline six-cylinder producing 285 horsepower. This engine, known simply as the Aerodyne, had a uniquely wide power band that allowed it to pull through a much broader RPM range than competitors, meaning drivers didn't need to shift gears as frequently on grades. Mack paired it with their Max-a-Torque transmission, a 5-speed unit that effectively operated like a 10-speed thanks to its torque characteristics. The result was a truck that seemed to need less effort from the driver to keep moving efficiently. Why truckers loved it? The Mack R model had a personality. Drivers who ran R600 talked about them the way car enthusiasts talk about classic muscle cars. The bark of the Mack exhaust was unmistakable. The truck felt planted and confidence-inspiring on any road. The build quality was the standard against which other trucks were measured. And unlike competitors, Mack still manufactured the vast majority of their truck's major components in-house. The engine, transmission, and rear axles were all Mack. If one failed, Mack knew exactly how to fix it. Why it no longer exists? The R model was discontinued in 1987, replaced by the Superliner. Mack's acquisition by Renault in 1990 accelerated the shift away from purely Mack-built drivetrains. Today, Mack uses Volvo engines in many configurations. The R model is widely regarded as the last great all-American Mack, and restored examples command significant prices at auction. Truckers who drove them consider the R600 the gold standard of what a semi-truck should be. Number 1. The 1978 Peterbilt 359. Background and history. If any truck deserves to be called the most iconic semi-truck ever built in America, it is the Peterbilt 359. Produced from 1967 through 1987, the 359 was Peterbilt's flagship conventional tractor for 2 decades. The late 1970s production years, particularly 1977 through 1981, are considered the peak of the model. This era coincided with the golden age of trucking in America. CB radios were everywhere, Smokey and the Bandit had just hit theaters in 1977, and truck drivers were folk heroes of the American highway. The 359 was the truck that defined that era. Engine and performance. The 1978 Peterbilt 359 was most commonly ordered with the Cummins NTC 400, an 855 cubic inch inline 6-cylinder producing 400 horsepower. This was one of the most powerful diesel engines available in a production highway tractor in 1978. Alternative engine options included the Caterpillar 3406, also producing up to 400 horsepower, and the Detroit Diesel 8V92 producing around 430 horsepower in its highest state of tune. Transmission options included the Fuller RT11 60/13 speed, which gave drivers exceptional gear selection for any terrain. Top speed with a 400 horsepower engine and proper gearing was approximately 75 miles per hour. Construction and design. The Peterbilt 359 was constructed around an aluminum frame, a remarkable weight-saving measure that most competitors weren't using. The cab was handcrafted steel and fiberglass with stainless steel trim. The hood was long enough to accommodate any diesel engine Peterbilt offered, and its slight downward taper gave the driver excellent forward visibility, a trait truckers appreciated on mountain roads. The 359 could be ordered in configurations ranging from a single sleeper berth to a full 72-inch unibuilt raised roof sleeper that gave drivers genuine living space. Why truckers loved it? The Peterbilt 359 was everything a trucker could want. It was beautiful, chrome stacks, chrome mirrors, classic proportions that looked like a truck was supposed to look. It was powerful with enough horsepower to handle any load on any road in America. It was built to last. 359s regularly accumulated 1 million miles before a major overhaul was required. And it was customizable in ways that let drivers make the truck their own. Paint, chrome accessories, interior upholstery, bunk configuration, engine choice. Every 359 on the road was slightly different because every owner put their stamp on it. Drivers also reported that the 359 simply felt right. The seating position, the steering response, the sound of the engine, everything combined to create a driving experience that modern drivers in their cushioned, computerized, electronically managed trucks cannot fully imagine. There was a connection between driver and machine in a 359 that truckers of that generation still talk about with unmistakable nostalgia. Cultural impact. The Peterbilt 359 appeared in more films, television shows, and advertisements than any other semi-truck in history. The most famous example is the 1977 film Smokey and the Bandit, in which Burt Reynolds' character drives a 1977 Peterbilt 359 pulling a refrigerated trailer across the country. The truck used in that film was actually driven during production rather than merely being a prop. It put real highway miles on during filming. The truck also appeared in the 1971 Steven Spielberg film Duel, though that production used an earlier Peterbilt model. Why it no longer exists. Peterbilt discontinued the 359 in 1987, replacing it with the 379, which used many of the same design cues but with a modern cab and updated mechanical components. The 379 itself became legendary and was discontinued in 2007. Today, Peterbilt builds the 389, which is essentially a visual tribute to the 379-359 lineage, but with modern emissions-compliant engines and electronic systems. It looks like the old trucks, but it isn't, and longtime Peterbilt drivers know the difference immediately. A fully restored 1978 Peterbilt 359 in show condition can sell for between $150,000 and $300,000 at auction today. Working examples that still run routes are treasured by their owners and command instant attention at truck stops across America. No truck in history has earned that kind of reverence, and none since has come close to deserving it. So that's it for today. If you like this video, then please hit the like and subscribe button for more videos. Thanks for watching.